Facebook comments the other day, and this one guy, he got in there and he was like, do you see what these people believe? These people are crazy. I know somebody was talking about the rapture, somebody was talking about these are the last days, and he was like, these Christians are insane, they're lunatics pretty much. And I just begin to think in my mind, I think it's kind of funny because you sit there and you believe in evolution, or you're an atheist and you believe in the Big Bang. Even if you say, well, I believe in nothing, you're still believing in something. So it takes just as much faith to believe in the evolution, or believe in nothing, or believe in the Big Bang.
Whoa, back up there, buddy. There's a whole lot of crap you just spewed there, and it all needs to be sorted into very differing categories. First, we have scientific observation about the universe, i.e. the Big Bang, and evolution. These are things which have empirically been shown to be the case. We know the Big Bang happened, and we know evolution happened, and all available evidence points towards this event, i.e. the Big Bang, and this ongoing and observable process, i.e. evolution. Observable and evidence-based is the antithesis of faith. If I were to package these things, they would say, no faith required, on the box. Then we have the belief in nothing. Now, since I don't think you are talking about some sort of uber nihilist, I assume you are attempting to portray the acknowledgement that an atheist lacks a belief in God, albeit a failed attempt. You and other apologists assert that God exists. I ask you what your evidence for that is, and in all cases to date, throughout the entirety of history, apologists like yourself have failed to supply any. That is not a leap of faith. That is not us assuming something about reality. You are asserting. We ask you for your basis to vet whether you have taken said belief on faith. If you can supply evidence, then your belief would not be faith-based. But since you cannot, it is faith-based. Noting that fact is not in itself faith-based, as our evidence is demonstrable in your lack of ability. So I'm glad we can have that talk and get it out of the way.
And what's so crazy about it, do you know how many miracles would have had to happen in order for the Big Bang to be true?
Absolute zero. That is another quality of this observation. It is natural, it follows natural laws, and thus is not supernatural at any base level, let alone a devised miracle. I assume, however, that you are about to lay thick your personal incredulity, i.e. personal ignorance as to how it could have occurred, as a supposed argument.
Scientists sitting there knocking their heads together, well, let's try to figure this out. Let's try to figure out how it existed. But the thing is, nobody was there. They're just giving you a theory. They have no hardcore proof. It's just something that they came up with, and you're sitting there believing it.
Well, perhaps you would like to study science to understand what science has actually demonstrated. From the redshift to background radiation, scientists have utilized a number of techniques in a forensic manner to distinguish what took place. Now, with vague assertions like these, I am left with a difficult decision as to what references to use to back my position. When it comes to IERA on evolution, at least they give specifics on denying human evolution, allowing me to target that singular aspect. But in your case, since you are so vague, I will give you a couple of general websites that discuss the topic and the basic fields of evidence, as well as give further references which you can then read if you want to learn about cosmology. There is no shame in not knowing, if you want to learn.
And it's crazy because you know how many miracles would have had to happen in order for this to happen. This molecule had to react to this molecule, and there was an explosion, and there's a 1 in a million chance of this and that, and this chemical had to respond to this chemical, and this had to touch this, and this had to form this. And it's so crazy, man. Like, they'll sit there and bully you and make you feel crazy for your beliefs and try to make you calm down and be quiet and not stand boldly for Jesus, but they feed you all this garbage, and they sound so smart, they sound stupid, man.
That does indeed sound stupid, because that is a weak straw man of what takes place. Science did not start from the position that the Big Bang must have occurred and cherry-picks the evidence that agreed. Rather, it worked with the evidence available and found it most suggestive of a Big Bang. Your personal incredulity, i.e. lack of understanding on what seemingly took place, is not an argument. You may not understand the workings of gunpowder, but if a forensic scientist finds powder residue and point of impact and collaborates with other specialists to conclude that a shooting has taken place, your knowledge or lack thereof is irrelevant, and the same goes for alternative possibilities. What actually matters is the demonstrable case being made with the evidence in existence. The position may shift when new evidence comes to light, but until then there is no reason at all to say, therefore God.
It's like, think about it, man. You're sitting there and that you're telling me, that you want to believe that this perfect body, the way that, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm saying the way that it operates, how we eat food and we digest food and how we have eyes to see, that there was no thought put into that. The way that our brain works, the way that we grow from birth, and we grow in the womb and we come out and we go from being a child to being an adult. You want to tell me that there was no thought put into that, and it was just some big accident. Something went off in the universe. There was some explosion, and here we are, and we evolved from some small little bacteria. And even though the chances are so slim and so small, somehow, some way, it's funny to me, man. You sit there and try to make me feel crazy about believing in God. You try to make me feel crazy that I believe that there's a designer, there's someone that created me with purpose. There's someone who actually took time and thought into creating me and forming me in the womb. I'd rather believe that I have purpose than everything is just a big mistake. Everything is just a big accident.
What I want has nothing to do with my positions. This is simply projection on your part. You admit that you base your beliefs on desire over evidence and therefore extrapolate your personal experience on everyone else. This is not true. Genetics has co-verified fossil taxonomy, displaying that, for example, human beings evolved from a common ancestor to modern apes, whether you like it or not. Meanwhile, we have observed the mutation of entirely new material in laboratory conditions, displaying a mechanism. As for your appeal to poor probability, not only did you need to cite your wild assertions, but you also need to account for the untold billions of planets orbiting around the 100 billion stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way, only one of 2 trillion such galaxies. On top of this, you need to factor in the water volume of the Earth being 1,386,000,000 cubic kilometers, each nanometer of which is a potential point of abiogenesis. Then you need to multiply these odds by potentially billions of years, with each second offering a unique set of conditions. It is absurd for you to think that life forming in this universe is unlikely when the math is stacked thoroughly in favour of such an event. As for big mistake, this is merely an appeal to emotion. The word mistake suggests intent gone wrong, such as God having to drown every human being on earth as the Bible proposes. A story which, by the way, it stole from earlier religions.
Don't let these smart people and these scientists and these atheists make you feel crazy for what you believe. Stand for what you believe. They stand for what they believe. And it takes just as much faith to believe what they want to believe, because it's all theory. They have no hardcore proof.
Okay, well, not surprisingly, you seem to be lacking a very basic understanding of science. Not a problem if you're willing to learn. That is to say that what you consider a theory in colloquial day-to-day use has no relevance to science. A theory in science is defined as a well-substantiated claim that has been verified repeatedly, i.e., to become a theory of science, you must first display not simply evidence, but overwhelming evidence. Such examples include germ theory, the theory of general relativity, nuclear theory, and, yes, both the theories of evolution and the theory of the Big Bang. Denounce the word theory in science as not being evidence-based, and you lose both modern medicine and basic physics, to name 2. So again, no faith required, no matter how many times you assert otherwise.
And the reason why most people would rather believe in evolution and the Big Bang as opposed to Jesus Christ being the creator and being God is because they don't want to be accountable for their actions. They don't want to believe that one day God's going to crack the sky and they're going to have to answer for all of their sins and the filthy ways they live their life and the secret things that you don't see them doing. They don't want to believe that they're going to have to answer for that. They want to just live their life and be their own God and live their own way. And that's what it is. It's just trying to defy what God does. And the thing about it is, just because something sounds smart doesn't mean it's right. But see, what happens is if it appeals to what a person wants, if it appeals to what a person desires, if they're looking for an excuse to live the way they want to live, if they're looking for a justification to live the way they want to live, they say, well, yeah, that sounds pretty smart. This chemical, that chemical, this explosion went up. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. But the truth is, they really just don't want to believe that there's a God. They really just don't want to be accountable.
Well then, why, if I just wanted to do whatever it is I wanted to do, would I waste my time denying your God, why wouldn't I just go and do whatever I wanted to do in the first place? There's nothing coherent to your assertion here. First of all, it lacks any and all evidence, being reliant upon your pure assertion, which by the way doesn't stand up to what we actually see. Secondly, if I knew God existed, denying their existence wouldn't change the consequences of my actions or knowledge of that. So yeah, how about you stop lying in future and tackle an atheist, not a straw atheist?
Man, stand boldly for Jesus. The world is standing boldly for everything they want to stand for. And like I said, it takes just as much faith for you to sit there and say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe anything. Well, you believe in something. Even if you believe in nothing, you're believing in nothing. And it takes faith for you to believe that there's nothing. It takes faith for you to believe, oh, there's no God coming. I don't believe that. It takes faith. I'd rather put my faith in the Creator that I know. First of all, I know that God is real without a shadow of a doubt because He talks to me. We commune. When I pray, He's there for me. He's been there through my hard trials. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have made it. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have no purpose. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have no joy. Man, I'm telling you, I know God is real. I'd rather believe that there's a mighty God who designed me and He created me with purpose, as opposed to, oh, this is just a big accident. It's just a big mistake. That's like, you know how many miracles would have had to happen in order for the Big Bang to be true and evolution to be true? You know how many chemicals had to respond to this? You know how crazy that sounds? You say, I sound crazy, you guys sound crazy, you're a little too smart for your own good. That's like me saying, man, my house got set on fire 50 times, and every single time by some miracle, I got out and I didn't have any burns, I didn't have any marks, nothing happened to me. I'm just unscarred every single time. That's how many times something had to happen in the universe for their theory to be true. Come on now. You're not going to punk me out and make me be ashamed to stand for what I believe. I'm going to stand for what I believe, because what you believe is even more crazy than what I believe. We just an accident. Y'all be blessed in Jesus' name.
And yet currently, out of the two of us, I'm the only one with any actual evidence of their position. Funny that. If you come at an atheist with this sort of commentary, you will be taken down very quickly. This is only ever convincing to the believer as a method of internal preservation, never an argument to another. Almost all atheists know the difference between the colloquial and scientific usage of the word theory. Your assertion of just as much faith won't fly, and neither will your suggestion that we simply don't want to acknowledge God because if we did, that would take away our free will. If there is one main thing this video has shown, it is how not to approach an atheist at all costs. That is all. So with that stated, take care. There are a few things which I'd just like to add here at the end of this video. The first is a massive thank you to everyone who has ever donated to me via Patreon. Your fantastic support has given me the ability to keep this channel going, and I hope to continue producing content in the years to come. Secondly, I would like to thank anyone who has ever interacted with this channel. Your shares, likes and dislikes, as well as your comments of both approval and disapproval, have ensured constant feedback allowing me to improve my work. Last of all, I would like to express my desire that you treat any of the people displayed throughout the video with respect. Whilst it is true that ideas do not demand respect, and there are many in fact which deserve reprehension, we must be careful on how we tackle said ideas in ensuring we are not simply targeting the person. In short, be the compassionate side of reason. So take care, and I'll see you next time.